Welcome back to the shop. Today we're tackling this beast, an old truck suspension spring, likely 5160 carbon steel. It's tough, nasty, and perfect for a blade. Step 1 is cutting a usable piece without losing any fingers. And hey, if you want to see more chaos, sparks, and metal bending like it owes you money, hit that subscribe button. Into the forge we go. I'm heating this up to a nice orange glow, about 1000 degrees Celsius. I need to fight the memory of the steel here. It wants to stay coiled. I want it straight. Using the vise and a pipe leverage, I'm practically doing blacksmith yoga. Once it's relatively straight, I take it to the anvil to flatten the curve. I'm just tidying up the geometry here. 5160 is a great steel. It's forgiving, but hard as nails. You can see I'm trying to get a consistent thickness. If you start with a crooked bar, you'll end up with a crooked knife, and nobody wants a banana sword. Now, let's bring out the big guns. This is the power hammer. I could draw this out by hand, but I value my rotator cuffs. I'm thinning the material down to establish the blade profile. I keep flipping it 90 degrees to keep the width and thickness in check. The scale flying off is just iron oxide. Don't worry, it's just the steel shedding its skin. I'm switching to flat dies, or just refining the surface now. This is called planishing. The goal is to smooth out the deep dents left by the aggressive hammering earlier. The smoother I get it now, the less time I spend grinding later. And trust me, grinding hardened spring steel is about as fun as chewing on tinfoil. A quick check for straightness on the anvil. The power hammer is strong but dumb. It doesn't know finesse. I'm fixing the tip and making sure the spine is dead straight. You have to work fast here before the heat drops too low. If you hit this steel when it's black, it can crack, and that sound will haunt your dreams. Time to make some man glitter. I'm at the belt grinder with a coarse ceramic belt, probably 36 grit. I'm removing the forged scale and cleaning up the profile. You see those sparks? That's high carbon content burning off. Wear your respirator, guys. Metal dust in your lungs is not a badge of honor, it's just a bad time. Now I'm refining the bevels on the vertical platen. I'm establishing the geometry of the cutting edge. I keep the blade moving constantly to avoid overheating any one spot. Even though it's not heat treated yet, I don't want to induce any stress. It's starting to look less like a truck part and more like a weapon now. Moving over to the disc sander. This big blue disc is the truth teller. It flattens the sides perfectly. If there's a low spot, this machine will find it. I'm pressing flat against the disc to get the tang and the blade face planar. Watch your knuckles here. This thing spins fast and has zero mercy for skin. I decided the spine looked too boring, so I'm adding some ghetto serrations with the angle grinder. I'm using a thick grinding wheel to carve out these scoops. Is it practical? Maybe for sawing through a zombie's ribcage. Mostly, it just looks aggressive and breaks up the lines. Style points matter. I'm cleaning up those cuts with a thinner disc now, smoothing out the transitions. You have to have a steady hand here. If you slip, you gouge the blade and ruin the whole aesthetic. I'm aiming for a consistent pattern all the way down the spine. It gives it a nice post-apocalyptic vibe. Heat treat time. This is the most critical step. I'm using the long gas forge to get an even heat across the entire length. We need about 840 degrees C into the oil. Listen to that sizzle. We are locking the carbon into the crystal structure, turning soft steel into hard martensite. No warping allowed. Hold it straight until it cools. After the quench, the blade comes out looking like a war zone, covered in burnt oil, scale, and everything in between. It's back to the grinder, because if you want a clean edge, you have to earn it. I'm slowly stripping away all that burnt mess to reveal the bare metal underneath. Every stroke counts here, and one wrong move could ruin hours of work. This part demands your full attention. Now comes the tricky part. I have to be super careful not to overheat the edge. If I see even a hint of blue, that temper is toast. So it's light pressure, fresh belts, and an endless dose of patience, because nothing good ever comes fast in this shop. I need to drill holes for the handle pins, but the tang is hard as glass. So I'm using a carbide bit and plenty of drilling fluid. If you don't have carbide, you'd have to spot anneal this with a torch to soften it. You can see the shavings coming off. That's a good sign. If it just screeches, your drill bit is dull or the steel is too hard. Now for the furniture. I'm taking a solid block of brass and machining it into the bolster. I've drilled the holes, and now I'm slotting it precisely to fit over the tang. This has to be a tight press fit. Any gaps, and you're basically announcing yourself as an amateur. Brass is tricky. It heats up instantly when you grind it, so one careless second and you've burned your fingerprints off. You have to stay sharp, stay focused, and respect the metal because it won't wait for you to slow down. Fitting the handle scales. I think this is walnut. I'm drilling through the wood using the tang as a template to ensure perfect alignment for the pins. I'm also adding some brass spacers to the bolster stack. It adds complexity, but it makes the handle look like $1,000,000. Dry fit everything twice, glue once. We are at the drill press. I'm drilling through the brass bolster and the wood scales simultaneously. This ensures the pins will fit perfectly tight. If you drill these separately, nothing ever lines up, and you end up crying in the corner. Now on the anvil, I'm peening the brass pins. I'm gently hammering them to mushroom the heads, which creates a mechanical lock. Then, straight to the belt grinder. I need to flush grind the pins and start shaping the brass to match the wood. I'm contouring the handle scales. I want the wood and the brass to feel like one continuous piece of material. I'm rotating it against the belt to round off the sharp, blocky edges. It needs to be ergonomic, not a brick. To get better control over the curves, I've switched to the angle grinder with a sanding pad. It looks aggressive, but with a steady hand, you can really sculpt the wood. I'm careful not to dig in too deep, or I'll ruin hours of work in 2 seconds. I'm swapping to a finer grit disc now. I'm focusing on the brass bolster, removing the deep scratches from the coarser grits. You can see the gold color starting to shine through. The heat builds up fast here, so don't burn the wood. Now for the most important part, the edge. I'm using a sharpening stone to manually set the bevel. I'm going for a convex geometry. It's tough and supports the edge during chopping. Listen to that rasp. That's the sound of the steel getting sharp. I keep checking the edge with paper. It cuts, but it's tearing a little bit. It's not ready yet. Back to the stone. I need to make sure the apex of the edge is perfectly centered. Consistency is key here. Same angle, every single stroke. That's better. Now I'm taking it to the buffing wheel. This is the make it pretty stage. I'm using a polishing compound to make that brass bolster look like a mirror and to pop the grain in the wooden handle. Hold on tight. This machine bites. Now I'm polishing the blade itself on the large bench grinder. This cleans up the final finish and removes any oxidation. I'm also running the edge lightly on the wheel to deburr it. It's essentially a high-speed strop. Still refining the edge with the handheld polisher. I want this thing scary sharp. You can see the reflection in the steel now. We've come a long way from that rusty truck spring we started with. One final pass with a manual honing block in the vise. This aligns the microscopic teeth of the edge. Now, the paper test. Silence. That's what we want. Just a clean, effortless slice. But paper is boring. Let's go break stuff. Testing time. First, the hanging sandbag. This simulates a soft target impact. The blade sinks deep, no rolling. Next, the water bottle check. Clean cut, perfect edge alignment. And for the grand finale. A bag of construction powder, just for the dust cloud. And finally, chopping season logs. This tests shock absorption. The edge held up perfectly, and the handle is solid. If you like this build, smash subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.